Welcome to REIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of REIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is inspections. As a real estate investor, one of the most important steps to take prior to purchasing a property is to have it inspected by a professional. Here are 5 reasons why you should never skip an inspection. Number 1, uncovering hidden issues. Inspections can reveal critical problems that are not visible during a typical walkthrough, such as structural damage, outdated electrical systems, or plumbing issues. Identifying these problems beforehand can save you from costly repairs and renovations down the line. Number 2, and my favorite, negotiating power. If the inspection uncovers issues, you can use this information to negotiate a lower purchase price before the closing. This can significantly reduce your investment risk and increase potential profitability. Number 3, accurate budgeting. Knowing the property's condition allows you to estimate your total investment more accurately, including purchase price, repairs, and upgrades. This helps in making informed decisions and avoiding unexpected financial burdens. Number 4, long-term value. Properties that are well-maintained and free of major issues tend to appreciate more consistently over time. Ensuring that your investment is sound from the start can lead to greater long-term value and return on investment. Number 5, legal and safety compliance. An inspection can also reveal if a property is non-compliant with local building codes and safety standards. Addressing these issues early on is crucial to avoid legal complications and ensure the safety of future occupants. So, an inspection is a small upfront cost, typically $350 to $500, that can save you from significant financial and legal headaches in the future. It's an essential step in ensuring that your investment is sound, profitable, and secure. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Peter Eberhardt. Peter grew up in Northern California and was always on a bike as a young kid. At the age of 12, he started racing BMX, which eventually earned him a national ranking by the age of 24. Early on in 2020, at the age of 25, Peter had a light bulb moment with his neighbors moving out that he realized the power of real estate and dove all in to learn about different ways of investing. Late in 2021, Peter bought and renovated a 4-plex in Central California. After that asset was fully repositioned and stabilized, Peter hung up his BMX dreams and is now fully invested in the multifamily space. I'm happy to have him on the show, so welcome, Peter.
Jen, thank you so much for having me. Man, what a cool intro that was. Oh my gosh, I even learned a little bit myself and we're not even 5 minutes in.
Thanks, Peter. I'll pay you later. I got to thank ChatGPT. I mean, let's be real here. So ChatGPT writes all of my badassery bestowments, but I do tweak them. So anyway, it's not about ChatGPT. It's all about Eberhardt today. And I want to talk about how you went from BMX bike racing to real estate. Like, let's start there. How did that transition go?
Well, I would say short answer, long answer. Let's do a medium answer. Few different factors, right? Few different factors. The biggest one, obviously.
Can you make money in BMX racing?
I mean, you can, but you ain't paying for McDonald's really every day. Like it's gonna be a stretch.
Okay.
No, yeah, we're all doing it for the love of the sport for sure. I think that the most I ever made in one race was about $1,700,
That's
maybe.
good.
And we'll see. Hold on a sec there. Let me explain. That was because I had won. That was like the championship payout for the whole series, which was like 9 races over the course of the
Oh,
year.
okay.
So I don't think that covered my transportation to those 9 different events, but it was cool to hold up a check with my bike that was $1,700, and people that didn't know was like, oh man, wow, that's so rad. You just had to go ride your bike for 30 seconds around the track and get that check. Anyways, I digress. Yeah. So no money in the sport. There's no money in the bike industry. Like the whole bicycle industry is broke. But
it's
anyways,
fun and cool.
yeah. So, I was just doing it for the love of the sport. I raced semi-pro for close to 12 years, maybe, I think 12, 13 years. And, I loved every second of it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But, that transition, going on to your question, was I had just recently got my national ranking, which is what my whole life revolved around accomplishing. I had just gotten that. And then after I got it, it was like, okay, what's next? Right. And that wasn't so certain. So I continued to ride my bike, and I was just focusing on becoming the rider I wanted to become, with no clear, like, sort of goal or path around that. And, I remember I was at the World Qualifier event in Houston, and I don't think I had qualified. I can't even remember. I don't think that I had qualified. And so I was putting my sights on the next, because there's 2 World Qualifier events per year to qualify for the World Cup. And I didn't do it on the first one. So I was setting my sights on the second one. And then a few months after that, the pandemic really hit the States. And just like all of us, right, we're thinking it'll be a few weeks, it'll be a few months, and a few months turned into a few years. So I quite literally hung up my bike and never picked it back up. That was sort of the transition. And I, through that process and that journey, I realized just how burned out I was in the sport. And so it just took those few weeks of, hey, we're going to be back racing in a few weeks. So I'm just going to hang up my bike for now and go have some vacays and go meet some friends. And, I did all the traveling that we weren't supposed to do, allegedly. And so that it just turned into a few months, and I never cared to pick it up again. And I went and kind of found my identity in other places. But so that's kind of the medium version of that.
Okay.
answer.
So you see your neighbors move out, and that's a light bulb moment for you. So, I mean, were you a loud, noisy neighbor? Like, why did they move out? What's going on here, Peter? Talk to me.
So check it out. So here's how the story went. I'm walking down this dark alleyway. It's about 10 o'clock at night, and I
already love this story.
So there's a dark
rat races in front of me.
It's 10 o'clock at night, and I was just coming back from driving Uber, and that was my typical during the week thing. I was driving Uber 7 days a week, overworking, workaholic. I was miserable. Like, Jen, I was so miserable, and I didn't know how to fix myself, because again, I had just quit racing, this identity shift, and I was a slave to workaholism. And I say that in a very blunt way, because I was not in control of myself. So So for me, it was a typical night, walking down this dark alleyway that goes behind the neighborhood to a shortcut to my condo. And I'm coming up onto my gate, and I see all this stuff out in the front common area. And my first thought was, another homeless person took our trash can and put it in our front yard, which is very common for the area I live in. So I didn't think much of it, but I get closer and I realize it's my neighbors that live across the hall from me, and they're moving everything out. And so I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, what's going on? Like, are you guys okay? And she's like, oh, we're moving to Oklahoma. And I kind of look at her quizzically, and I'm like, right now? I kind of look at my watch. I'm like, yep, it's definitely 10 o'clock at night. I'm not crazy here. She's like, oh yeah, like, husband's getting the U-Haul truck. We're packing up tonight. We got to be on the road by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So me, Mr. Nosy and Mr. Nice, I start helping him load the U-Haul. And I'm like, hey, so what are you guys selling your place for? And she told me a number that was like $70,000 more than what I had bought my identical layout condo for like 3 years ago. And I thought, there's no fucking way. There's just no way. So I fact checked it, and sure enough, that's what it was listed for. And that's my single light bulb moment of, wow, I just gained in value much more than I make at my W-2 job. Like, there's something here with this real estate thing. I got to know more. And the rest is history. Just dove all in from there head first.
Well said. And that is just, stalking Zillow and seeing that Zestimate, like, oh shit, my house is worth what?
Right.
Yes, agreed.
According to Zestimate.
Actually love flipping condos and townhomes, because typically when people leave condos or townhomes, they're moving on to something bigger and better, or Oklahoma in this case. And your competition is so low because they're like, puce out. They don't want to paint the walls. They don't want to, put in new carpet or anything. And so you can go in and get them at a lower price. And then for very minimal investment, you get a much higher return, because you either get a place that's freshly painted with new countertops, or you get the one that Oklahoma left for you. So yeah. Anyway, I just went off on a tangent there. But so from there, was this in Northern California, or is this already in Central California?
This is in San Diego. So I moved from Northern California when I was 18 to chase that dream in BMX racing and put myself amongst the Olympians. So that's where I grew up, Northern California, moved down to San Diego in 2015, I think. And so this was, the pandemic started, 2020? So this was in 2020 in San Diego, where I have my condo that I purchased in 2017.
Got it. So how did you find this quad in the middle of the state?
Well, so this fourplex actually found me. And keep in mind, this was about a year after I had dove all in to real estate. So the way that my journey worked, because I was starting from ground zero, okay. Jen, I didn't even know what real estate investing, what that meant. So I started out with going to Ohio, looking at some single family homes, learning that I could take out a HELOC on my condo. So I did that right away because I was deep in debt with credit card debt from racing. And I took my seed money from my HELOC and I flew myself out to Ohio in the dead of winter with the intention to buy some single family homes. That did not make a lick of sense to me. So I put a halt on that, came back to California and started placing offers on 4 units that were within driving distance of San Diego. Okay. I didn't care what it was as long as I could self-manage it. And I was trying to do this FHA, by the way. So this was now at the pinnacle peak of the market. And obviously FHAs, because of all the regulations and things that the lenders and buyers have to jump through and the sellers have to jump through, those weren't being accepted whatsoever. So fast forward a few months, I started placing conventional offers and just saying, screw it. I'm going to use all my money I just need to get something, because getting something, even if it's a bad deal, is better than doing nothing. And so I'm placing offers left and right. And it got to a point where I didn't even care. I was sign my name, send it. Right. And I get this phone call. I was Ubering. I get this phone call and it was an agent saying, hey, Mr. Peter, we have this 4 unit. We just fell out of escrow for the second time. You're third up. Do you still want it? And I was like, okay, I'd placed this offer like 2 months ago.
Which
I couldn't
property?
even remember what it was. Yeah. I was like, I said, I don't know which property, but yes, I want it. I'm in. Like, let's go. So, the reason why it was having trouble in escrow was there was a troubled tenant, and between COVID and California, they couldn't get this tenant out and they were trying to evict them. And just the way that the inflated price of the on-market values and how low of an income and like economic obsoleteness this place was, it was really hard to get lending approved for it. And so knowing that story, I was like, all right, well, let's go, let's try it. And I was real tight with my lender by this time, right? Because I had now built up a relationship with him over 6 months of trying to get a place. So I called him up. He's swinging balls on the golf course. He's like, hey, can I call you back? I'm like, no, dude, sorry. Like, I just need to talk for like 30 seconds. And he was gracious enough to say, hey, look, I have this situation. I'm not going to be able to include, or I don't think I'm going to be able to include this part of my rent to qualify for the mortgage. Cause again, I'm scraping the skin of my teeth here and offering every last dollar I can. So I said, hey, is there a way that we can work that out? He said, yeah, I know that you're going to be able to get a tenant in there within 30 days of closing. Because by this time the eviction process was pretty far along. So we were able to get it done. It was a little bit of a longer escrow process, as I recall, and a little bit of a hassle. But yeah, I walked away with 4 sets of keys.
Nice. I actually saw that. I stalked you a little bit online and I saw the picture of you holding the 4 keys. I was like, oh,
you did.
I did.
Oh, heck yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love all those little video edits and things like that.
So funny story. I bought a quad in downtown Raleigh and I got about 40 keys and I didn't know what the hell doors, they didn't go to the main doors, nothing. So, and it was in like a little lunch bag, by the way, with like 1,000 different anyway. So yours was a lot more organized. I was like, oh, okay. I like how he does that. So I want to go back just one step though, because I know you have since hired a mentor and you've done some coaching. What did you do to learn how to do this stuff in that year before you bought that quad or that fourplex?
That was all self-taught. That was me seriously fighting analysis paralysis with all the BS that you see on the internet and Instagram. And also the hardest part was I didn't have any goals and I had no way to set goals because I had no idea what was realistic or not. So I think I did listen to one podcast that helped me out, and that was it was like real estate investing with Coach Carson, who's also from North Carolina, I believe. And he was just a very kind of basically explaining things in a way that I would be able to learn on the surface level what every different sort of method of investing was. And then from there, I could kind of dive in deeper and learn more. And so, short-term rentals didn't really attract to me. Mobile homes didn't really attract to me. So I kind of zoned in on multifamily 4-unit, which was the most I could place an FHA for. Right. So that was like the only podcast I used to learn. And the rest was just, spit, grit, and a whole lot of tears. I mean, I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated with just not, cause I'm an action taker. Right. Mm-hmm. And every time I couldn't take an action just cause I didn't know, it was so bizarre and frustrating. So anyways, as far as the goals went, I didn't know how to set a goal. So I was like, okay, well, if I could make the same amount in passive income as I do right now in my W-2, would I be good? I looked at my current lifestyle, my bills. I'm like, yeah, I'd be good. Okay, cool. That's my goal. Let's just replace all my income from my W-2 job with passive income. All right, well, how soon do you want to do that? And I'm like, well, in the next 5 years sounds nice, and be retired by 30 and go travel the world. So that's what I started telling people that I was going to do. I'm like, I'm going to be retired by 30 and I'm going to be off driving my van around the world or something. I don't know.
Just don't park it down by the river.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I did. So I set out to say, okay, I need to buy a property every single year that's going to cash flow me positively $5,000 every single year. Oh, sorry, $1,000 every single year. So that in 5 years, I'll have $5,000, which would replace my salary, and I would be good.
A month.
Yeah, $1,000 a month.
Yes. Yep. Okay. I hope it's not $1,000 a year.
Correct. So that was my goal. Well, I set out. I'm like, all right, I need to buy a property that cash flows $1,000 a month, and I need to buy one of those every year.
Very, very smart. And so let me ask you this, as I am a coach. And so hearing you and there's many listeners out there and that's what they're doing. They're going to YouTube University. They're learning as much as they can. Do you, and you were successful, I mean, obviously, but do you wish you would have maybe done some coaching beforehand or it worked out totally fine for you? Or once you got through it, you said, oh shit, now I see the need to bring in an expert here to get me to that next level. So tell the listeners out there, someone's driving to work right now, cussing the traffic that they're sitting in, and they want to do what you did. So how would you recommend they get there as far as their education?
Yeah, I would definitely say the former, not the latter. I would definitely say get the free stuff, get the YouTube University,
Okay.
get the Instagram. Yeah, because, and the reason I say that, uh, unless, of course, you have a lot of seed money to start with. But for me, at least, my self identity or my self discovery throughout this process, I mean, there's no coach that could, that process. I mean, I spent like this year alone, this year alone, I've spent $55,000 on mentors and coaching. And some of that was well spent. Some of that was completely like, well, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but right. You don't know until you know. And so I would say, and this is what I tell all the newer people that are stepping into the space that I meet at all these real estate meetups is, which is kind of, I speak out of two sides of my mouth because I do tell people your number one goal should be to find a mentor. But I'm not talking about like a paid guru. I'm just talking about anybody here in this room that you can just make friends with that knows a little bit more than you, that you can pick up the phone and call somebody. Like that's the key word. So you can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, like, what do you think about this? Or what's the grand concept around that? Like, like how does the whole picture look? And because you can learn everything you want on YouTube if you know what you're going for. And so, find someone that can kind of dumb down the basic ideas. That's what I would recommend. And because, yeah, I mean, I kind of learned early on, especially moving down to San Diego from a small backwoods northern town. Sitting in traffic is the stupidest thing. I don't know. Like it makes zero sense. And so that was my first goal moving down here was I was chasing the flexibility. I wasn't chasing the money. I never asked for a raise. I just asked to work from home. And that was my first step was get the flexibility so that I could have the time to learn more, do more of what matters. You name it.
I love it. And thank you for sharing that. And, everybody is unique in their own way. And, there's so much great free content out there and you should take advantage of it. And then also tying into that about the whole guru thing. And you said you spent 55,000 or whatever the number was, but some was good and some wasn't because there are people who will steal the shit out of your money and be like, oh, I'll teach you how to flip houses. And then you're out 20K or whatever for their program and you haven't done jack. So make sure, listeners, if you do decide to go the route of having a mentor that you're paying for mentorship, make sure that it meshes with you. But yes, having a local mentor to pick up the phone and call. And I think that's excellent advice. So with this whole mindset and everything, I want to know how your athletic mindset helped with overcoming obstacles in real estate. So how does that work for you?
Well, the big part of it is the whole idea of repetitiveness and like you're not going to get it the first time, right? It's like to me it sounds very cliche, but I do meet a lot of people that aren't athletic that don't get it. Like for example, right? I spent all the money in the world on coaches, programs, training, gadgets, you name it, because I was so focused on getting to where I wanted to be in the BMX sport. And so, but that didn't get me far at all because I was missing the big ideas. Like I was missing the big picture of it. I was so focused on all the little things. And so, but it, to get my national title, I mean, I probably chased down 3 or 4 rabbit holes in the sense of 3 or 4 different methods of training, figuring out my body, like how to get every little bit of power watts out from my little muscle fibers. It took time. And so once I actually got that ranking and I kind of understood like, okay, like you're going to not fail a lot, but you're going to fail a lot. And so to not get discouraged, that's the part that a lot of people miss. They don't kind of get the idea or the concept of like, hey, just keep in mind that you know nothing about nothing. And there's a bazillion ways to get to where you want to be. So it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out the bazillion ways. But the most important thing, you ever did the little, I don't know, Jen, I don't know if you did this in high school, but did you ever like make the little maze with the mouse and the peanut butter on the end in science class? And, as soon as the mouse hits that wall, he's booking it in one direction or the other. The mouse doesn't sit there and like, oh, do I go over the wall? Do I go this way? And like, no, he makes a decision instantly and he's going in the other way. So if you can have that, if you can say, hey, I'm going to make the decision as quick as possible, knowing damn well it could be the wrong decision. But by the time you make 6 wrong decisions and you get to the 7th right decision is probably about the same amount of time most people take to make one decision. So if you can just accelerate that and, know that, hey, you're going to make wrong decisions, like piece of cake. And
I like that you said, be repetitive, because I'm sure in the BMX racing world, you had to do this, turn. I don't know anything about racing bikes, but you had to practice things over and over again, thinking of like Michael Jordan, where he would just do thousands and thousands of free throws and till he got it right. Cause it's that whole repetitiveness. And that I can see where how is that tied in for you into real estate? Cause I love that you use that word.
Yeah, I mean, it's tied in the sense of, because I struggle with it too sometimes, right? If I'm like cold calling or if I'm placing offers, or like I've been in contract now 3 times in the last 90 days, every single one of them fell out for one reason or another. But, it gets to a point where you're like, man, how tough can this market get? And what's it going to take to finally get my next deal, right? Not to mention the hundreds of properties you look at, that you underwrite, that you cold call. So that repetitiveness and knowing that even after hundreds, months, or even years of failing, that as long as you still feel confident in yourself and you have a little bit of courage and a little bit of faith and a little bit of dedication, that you will get results. And that's a sure thing. There's a lot of people that step in that maybe don't have an athletic background, that they hear like, oh, it takes a lot of failures to reach success, but actually failing and like wondering, hey, is this right? Is this how it should be? Like, because I'm okay with hard work if I know that it should be hard. So should this be hard? Right? That's the question that a lot of people that maybe either don't have an athletic background or don't have that sort of disciplined mindset, that they struggle with that. And that's where, if you have a mentor, hey, pick up the phone, ask them how many times it took them to get those properties under contract.
I love everything you just said there, because I have students that they're so afraid just to write that first offer. I'm like, it's not going to get accepted. Just letting you know, because it took me 25 offers to get one accepted. So just think, the first 24 aren't going to matter anyway. So just write them, and you build that repetitiveness, and it makes you so much better in the real estate, just like you would do it as an athlete. And by the way, I am a former athlete. I know that's hard to believe, but I was a basketball player growing up. It was always foul on number 44. That was me.
Oh, man.
I used what my mama gave me, and I could box out with the best of them. But anyway, I digress. So
heck yeah.
Now, you also said hard work. You're not afraid of hard work. And again, that person who's driving in their car now stuck in traffic, you sat in a lot of traffic in your day because you did Uber for a long time. And that really, you busted your ass driving Uber in this regular job to save up money to get this first deal. And then it was one of those things where it's like you've never looked back. So I don't want listeners to think, oh, this is a get rich quick scheme. So tell me about that journey and of using Uber to get to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'm a big Uber fan. It is the only industry that I've been able to watch be invented, to watch it grow and become this monstrosity that has to be controlled. I've been through all the strikes and all the labor, the big old companies getting sued, and it's just been fascinating. So, and it's definitely changed my life for the better, for the financial part of it, and get me on that fast track. So the quick and short story of it is that I'm always at the BMX track, right? I'm always racing. I'm always there, and I'm serious. Like, I don't have friends. I'm focused. I'm doing my thing, and I'm fast as fuck on the bike. Okay. And so there's this new guy that comes in, and he keeps coming, and he just really wanted to be friends with me, and I did not want to be friends with him. but he was so determined to like be my friend. So I was like, okay, cool. So we started hanging out, and he did Uber and Lyft, and they had just come to the San Diego market. This was back when they were just, being invented, so to speak. And my young entrepreneurial spirit sort of kicked in, and I was starting to think of like, okay, well, I need to get a new car, or I need to get a car to do Uber. So how much could I make? Could I make my car payments, this, that, and the other? Long story short, I started driving, and 30,000 rides later, haven't looked back, over the span of, I think, 8 years now. And so it definitely did help me get on the fast track. It helped me buy my first condo, which also helped me buy my 4 unit, and it's going to help buy my next 5 and up unit.
So the message to the people listening, though, you're never just going to, it's not a get rich quick anything, real estate. So you had to do that for how many months before it started propelling you into real estate?
Well, so I first used it as a supplement for my racing career, right? I was almost literally living off of credit cards in San Diego. And so I would find different ways to open up new credit cards and always be transferring balances, moving money around. And that was just how I was making it. And so I remember starting Uber. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this so I can work a little bit more to race. And very quickly, Jen, I was making more in a weekend than I was during the week at my day job.
Wow.
Like, it was lucrative. And I was like, holy cow, this is way more money than I've ever made. Right. So very quickly I got addicted to it. But I was still trying to balance the racing and things like that, but it still wasn't enough. And so I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to race more? This makes 0 sense. I love to race. I came down here to race, but I can't race because I have to work to live here to race. And I can't race because I have to work, right? It was this constant loop. And it was very frustrating. And so I said, okay, well, living is my biggest expense. Like, paying rent doesn't make any sense. I'm just throwing money in the trash can. So how can I lessen that, or how can I just eliminate that completely? And so I said, okay, I'm going to save up. I'm going to buy a 3-bedroom condo, and then I'm going to have 2 roommates. They're going to pay my mortgage. Right. So I started driving. I would wake up at 4 a.m. I would be in my car at 4:30, and then I would drive until 8:30, in which point I had to leave to get to my office to be at work by 9 o'clock, work in my office from 9 till 5 p.m., and then drive Uber from 5 p.m. till 10 p.m., get 6 hours of sleep, do it all over again. I did that for 8 months straight. I went from $30,000. No. Yes. I went from $30,000 in credit card debt to $24,000 in savings.
Nice.
In 8 months. Now that took in that short period of time, San Diego is very highly appreciated. Right. So I could no longer afford a 3-bedroom condo from 8 months ago.
Right.
I could barely afford a 2-bedroom. So I'm pissed, Jen. I am so pissed. I'm like, I just wasted my life driving Uber, and, I could be racing. So anyways, I settled. I just bought a 2-bedroom. I got a roommate right away. And actually, I digress. I was actually so pissed at this condo and what it meant, because to me, it just meant that I had lost 8 months of my racing life. So I was pissed. I didn't actually move into the condo, I think, for a year until after I bought it. Wow. I was living with my girlfriend I was dating at the time, and I just kind of didn't want to look at it. And so, but I eventually did move in. I got a roommate, and after it was all said and done, my mortgage payment in total out of my pocket was about the same amount that I was paying in rent before. So I was like, all right, well, at least I'm paying a principal, so that's cool.
Right.
But that was the Uber schedule for 8 months. And then I got back to racing, got my national title, fell into workaholism again with that same Uber schedule for like 3 or 4 years, and bought my fourplex.
And you keep using the term workaholism. So what does that mean to you?
Oh, that's such a good question, Jen. Workaholism to me means, well, so I've never drank alcohol. I've never done drugs. I was always very kind of straight edge through my young life and my young adult life, because I was always just racing. I was riding my bike. Like, I just loved to do that so much. And I distanced and I separated myself from society because of that. Like, I didn't want to make friends. I didn't want to talk to anybody because I thought everyone out there was such a bad person because they were out having fun and I was over here having my fun. I over the course of that time, I became like a very judgmental person, which I'm not proud of it, but I admit it. Like I was a very judgmental person, and I kind of put myself up on a little bit of a pedestal there. So after I kind of hung up the bike and my life was very uncertain as far as who I was and what that looked like, and I had no friends, I didn't know how to make friends. I found a lot of safety and security and comfort in working. Like that was my escape from reality, kind of similar to how alcoholics use alcohol or drug addicts, what have you. Sometimes I would work for 26, 28 hours straight. Like I loved that feeling of my brain being so exhausted. There was nothing there. There was no feelings. It was numbing. And to me, it was peace. Right.
Wow.
Because if I was like rested, I was extremely unhappy. I had no idea what I was doing, where I was going, what the whole purpose of life was. And I was, very depressed and isolated. So working it enabled me to, I guess specifically driving Uber enabled me to get into the social party bar scene, right? I'm taking everyone out to go drinking. They're all having fun.
Did anyone puke in your car?
Not in my car, but outside on my car. Oh, many times. I was real good at it. We could be here all day with Uber stories, but I was real good. They get in the car. I look at them. I say, "Hey, are you good?" They're like, "I'm good." I'm like, "Okay, well, you just tell me if you're not good, because we'll pull over." I mean, there's been many times where it was a real quick shift to neutral, e-brake, hand on the door, pushing passenger out, like it was the whole thing. But it was so fun, right? Like the alcohol was flowing, the people were friendly. I was having these conversations with these individuals that made me feel like, that was my social fix. Money was coming in, endorphins were high. It was a jam. It was a vibe. I would be ripping gears all night long around San Diego. And it was just so fun. So yeah, I got very addicted to that lifestyle. And man, if I could come home at 6 a.m. after driving for 22 hours and the world's quiet, my brain's quiet, I don't feel anything. I'm just like in a kind of a phase, like, oh man, and that was addicting. But wow. Definitely not healthy.
You're exhausting me just hearing this. But it's also paved the way for you to totally kick ass at this thing called real estate. So I do appreciate you sharing that. And I want to wrap up this first part of the podcast here. I have people who do the YouTube University route. There are so many options out there, and we call it the shiny key syndrome or the shiny object syndrome. And it's ooh, I want to do this. Ooh, I want to do this. And then on the other side of that, you have the analysis paralysis side of things. So with you being exposed to everything without having a formal educational background, how did you get past all of that? And let's start with the shiny object syndrome. How did you get past that? Because you could click on one thing, and then of course social media is going to pick up, oh, they were looking at this on YouTube, and now we're going to start throwing it in their feed. So how do you get past, that was a long-winded question. So how do you get past the shiny object syndrome?
Well, yeah, putting your blinders on and having the courage to know that in your heart, you're on the right path, which a lot of that sometimes comes down to listening to your gut, because your gut, and by the way, when I say my gut, and for everyone that's listening, like your gut's really important because it's really your subconscious that's telling you things that you know, but you don't know that you know. And so listen to your gut. But I think for me, that analysis paralysis, I really struggled with first, and shiny object syndrome came after that, or, one kind of follows the other. But yeah, it's a fine balance, and I fight it all the time. And I've definitely gotten a lot better at it now because I've learned more, I've done more, I've seen more. But yeah, back when I was starting, I just remember my blinders were on. I was, if I heard or saw, or, I go on Instagram and there's ads for Amazon FBOs, and there's drop shipping, and there's crypto, and there's all these things, or even within real estate, there's boutique hotels, STRs, mobile home, sub twos, like arbitrage, like
pad split, everything, all that stuff. Yes.
Yeah. All that stuff. I keep scrolling, or I don't even look into it a little bit, because I'm focused. I know exactly the path that I'm on. Back then, when I was starting, I didn't know the path that I was on, but my desire to take action and move forward overcame everything. That overcame analysis paralysis. That overcame shiny object syndrome, because again, like the little mouse, the quicker that you can make a decision and do something, the quicker that you're going to get to be the person that you want to become.
And I think that is a perfect segue to go into the second part of this podcast, which is what makes Peter a badass, which clearly you are. So we are going to use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. And I actually took a little peek at your answers here, and I don't know this book, so I'm excited to hear about what's a book that's made a huge difference in your life.
Oh, that would be The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That book was, and to be straight, I haven't even actually finished that book. I've gotten halfway through, but I've read the first part like 4 times over. It's a very, very heavy book to really digest, reflect on yourself. And it's a serious personal growth book for someone like me, where my mind is always going 100 miles an hour. And I thought that that was a bad thing. I thought that I needed to quiet my mind. I thought that I needed to stop thinking so much. And once I got to the point where I could afford to hire a high performance coach, he's like, no, Peter, you're trying to solve a 2x problem with a 10x mind. Oof. If you can control your mind and learn how it works, you're going to be unstoppable. And that was one of the books that my coach recommended, and it's been instrumental for sure.
I definitely need to check that one out. It sounds awesome. All right. The first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Keep the urgency, but practice patience.
Woo!
Oh, so deep. That is so deep. Every time I say it, I get chills. Again, Jen, I am just so like, I'm always on it. So when I come to not a problem, but when I come to an undecisive problem, for lack of a better word, in my investing career, in my life, it eats away at me so hard. And if I can't solve it, even with taking my own advice, with picking up the phone and calling people, I can't solve it. So I had a kind of a split roads in my investing career at one point that was really hard for me to get over. And I was picking up the phone. I was calling every mentor, everyone I knew, in order to just help relieve this like pressing question. But it really came down to nobody could answer it for me other than myself, which, made it quite hard. And I still struggle to this day with it. But I picked up the phone to someone that I met in a mastermind virtually that I had never met before in person. And he laid out a lot of good stuff for me. And he said that just in conversation of, hey, like, I know that you're anxious. I know you want to do something. So keep that urgency, but practice patience. And I wrote that up on my wall along with a few other quotes. And that sticks with me so hard.
Patience is not a virtue I am good at. I have zero patience. I was telling you, I drove 14 hours on Monday. I drove from Florida back up to North Carolina, and I'm from I was born in Miami. I grew up in South Florida, but as soon as I hit Florida, my aggressive driving tendencies came back with like a vengeance. I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I? So I have zero patience. I could never be a real estate agent just because of the whole patience thing. I made my husband get his real estate license because I couldn't deal if someone's like, so what do you think the rents are going to be in that area? Do your damn job and figure it out. So earn that commission already. Anyway, you and I are going to be friends. I love this. I'm having a great time with you. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
I think that any driven person, we're all driven by a past trauma. Like past trauma is what drives us. And there's 2 parts to this, Jen. Okay. The first part is you being aware that you are being driven by that trauma. And if you're aware, let it drive you freely. Go for it. if you're not aware of it and you think that you're being driven by these other factors, or you're not aware of this trauma that may be positively or negatively affecting your energy output for the day, that can be very detrimental. And that was how I was with my workaholism. Was I had this serious drive that I had no idea what it was, and I had no idea how to control it. So I would be working 110 hours a week, and my productivity, you could say, was subpar at best. Because I thought I was making money and I was progressing, but was I really progressing in other areas? No. So if you can know what your trauma is that drives you, and trauma is relative to you. It doesn't matter if someone else thinks that that's not traumatizing. Like, no, we all have it at some point in our lives. And use that, really know that, and use that to drive you, because that will become part of your purpose and part of what you want to change in the world.
You are so well beyond your years, Peter. I'm just letting you know, because you're saying stuff. I'm like, I just read about that last year and I just turned 50 this year. So here you are, not even 30, and totally kicking ass. And I'm loving it. All right, moving on. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
A goal that I am currently, see, this is a little tough one because I don't really believe in goals. I don't have goals. I'm so confident that I know that I'm going to get to where I want to be. Okay, let me take a step back. So goals to me are more like the materialistic things. Like, I want to have 100 doors. I want to have $50,000 a month in passive income. I'm going to have a Porsche GT3. Like, those are all kind of materialistic goals, but a vision, becoming the person you want to become, becoming content with the trajectory that your life is on, that's my goal. Like, I want to be content with myself and my trajectory. I want to be content with my path, and I want to be sure, fast, and solid in my vision.
So what does content look like to you?
Content looks like kind of, I think, where I'm at right now, because content with the trajectory. And if we all can remember high school, trajectory is both path and speed. So the direction that I'm on and the speed that I'm getting there, or the more patience that I'm trying to bestow upon myself, that's content. And I think that I'm pretty close to there. I've uncovered a lot of things that helped me not be content in my life. And I would say that I wake up every day feeling a little bit more present and grounded with just where I'm at and where I'm going.
And I love that you used the word bestow, by the way, because that's not a very overly used word, and it's in my name, bestower of badassery. So thanks for saying that. All right. The first S in badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
Well, I do have a VA that it helps me with kind of all the day-to-day administrative stuff. I actually very recently got my day schedule kind of on a system, which I've never done before, because I'm always do the hardest thing first and everything else will be easy for the rest of the day. But I connected with a personal trainer that I really like. So I'm in the gym every morning at 5:00. And that sort of helps set a good tone for the rest of my day. So that is a surefire thing. Everything else in the day is kind of overboard. But systems for other business related things like sourcing properties, finding deals. I'm a big wizard with Excel, so I have a lot of kind of automated systems.
Are you a freak in the sheets? Is that you?
Yeah, tasking that. But I also have read Traction once, and I know that when I do get more income, more resources, more hirees, that's going to be where my system creating skills are really going to be put to the test.
Excellent. I love that. Hirees. All right. The final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to Peter Eberhardt?
Well, shoot, is that a kind of a redundant question? Because I think for my answer to that is always to be content with the person that I want to become. Because see, here's the thing. Back when I was really struggling with my workaholism, and back when I was struggling with for example, when I bought my condo or when I bought the 4-unit, society was so happy for me. They were congratulating me, and And which is normal and common. I don't fault them for that, but I was crying out for help, Jen. I was so miserable and like upset that it was hard for me to deal. And so being, they would say, hey, just be yourself. And I said, that's the worst fucking advice I've ever heard in my life. I don't know who I am. It's that is not advice, but to become the person you want to become. And what that means is when you are triggered, or if you're in a situation, or you have an undesirable response to your environment, and you say, hey, do I want to be this person? Like, do I want to be this person with these anger issues, trust issues, indecisiveness issues, whatever it is? If you don't want to be that, and if you want to be a person that is secure in their environment, their relationship, what have you, then practice that every chance you can. You have to practice it and intercept those brain signals that are telling your body to freak out when you're on a fight or flight response. So yeah, just becoming the person you want to become. Success. Well,
I see the sky is the limit for you, Peter, and I see you approaching that even quicker than you think. I also know that you're definitely inspiring some of the listeners out there. So what is a way that they can reach out to you if they have questions or want to learn more about your quad or however, all that fun stuff? How can the listeners reach out and find you?
They can pick up the phone and they can call me, text me. I don't care. If you spam me, don't worry about it, because spamming and blocking is so easy these days. So use it, but don't abuse it. My direct phone number is 707-489-6236. I would love to hear anyone that's out there, because I know Jen's an awesome host, to say the least, and I bet all of her listeners are equally as great. So call me if you want to kind of keep up to date on my current happenings, building business credit, buying properties with credit cards, or just my day-to-day ripping the roads and all the other fun stuff I like to do. My Instagram is simply my first and last name @Peter Eberhardt, and you can follow me on there as well. Would love to connect.
And that's EBERHARDT. So check him out. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Peter. You are like I said, the sky is the limit for you. And I know it's going to be fantastic and very, very impressive. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Jen, you're a badass and a rock star. Keep at it.
And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.